Coming up on today's show, we'll be talking about Black Panther Wakanda Forever and looking back at Phase 4.
We'll be showing you what happened when we showed the trailer for Strange World to some families.
And we'll be going through this week's releases, The Menu, Confess, Fletch, and Armageddon Time. Hello and welcome to What's On at Cineworld Cinemas. I am Luke Owen.
And I'm a superhero with very fresh breath. Tic Tac Panther. Tic Tac. You missed last week's. It was good.
Oh yeah?
As a superhero who likes to go to a jumble sale, bric-a-brac Panther. Thank you. That's all I wanted.
Well, that one's quite good.
Well, because you start with a good one. It's diminishing returns, Luke. Do my best here, aren't I? These are hard times we're living in.
Well, to go against diminishing returns, I think we should talk a little bit about Phase 4.
Let's do it.
And Black Panther. Mm-hmm. I feel like we need some positivity around Phase 4, because I think Phase 4 has actually done a hell of a lot more than I think some people give it credit for.
Before we started filming, we were looking at the roster of films in Phase 4, and each of them I was like, oh yeah, they're all quite good actually.
Yeah, I think so as well. I thought Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Mm-hmm. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Yeah. Obviously, I wasn't here last week to have a chat with you about it.
Which was the just before I saw it chat. Mm-hmm. And then while the episode came out, I was in the IMAX experiencing it
on the IMAX as well.
Big boy IMAX. Well, I always go in the IMAX for the Marvel movies because I feel like that's the one that I'm the most excited to see in the big shiny format, and it was wonderful.
Yeah,
it was very very emotional. I thought the film was a really interesting. Ryan Coogler had a really interesting job on his hands because it was a very personal story. As a when you make movies, you're a family, and so you start to really, especially something like Black Panther, which was so personal and so a lot riding on it for a community that were seeing themselves represented in this way. So it was a lot for him to do to take on this mantle, and I think he did really really well. I think it was a really fantastic film.
I think you and Ollie made a very good point last week, which is that it's not just about watching characters grieve for the loss of a character. It was a joint grieving process for all of us.
Because that's what's so unique about the MCU, I think, is that because it's been so long ranging, because it's been such an important part of so many people's lives as cinema goers, it's not just going and enjoying the movie. You actually put a lot of your personality and a lot of your effort, a lot of your energy into the movie. Yeah, it's a very personal experience going to see a movie like this, and it made me do a cry. Big cry.
100%. Yeah, the tears doth flow while watching the movie, and I was kind of delighted to see it as well because, like I said, I don't think people are giving credit the credit that Phase 4 kind of deserves.
Yeah,
I think there's actually been multiple being a key word here. Great movies in this that have laid the groundwork. Like we were talking about before we started recording this, we were looking at the list of movies, because Black Panther Wakanda Forever, as far as I can tell, is the end of Phase 4. And Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which we're going to get next year, is going to be the Kickstarter for Phase 5. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of, you said, what Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it's not the movie you'd have picked to end Phase 4 because it's not about the multiverse.
It's interesting because it's almost like it's not... Black Panther is about its own story. It's even about how Wakanda fits into the wider story. But what's interesting is that when I think of phases and of phases past, I suppose the last movies of most of the phases don't necessarily have this. I think in my head I'm thinking of this big moment, which is like, in an act structure.
Next is Phase 5.
Exactly. Yeah. But this isn't that. And actually the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that's not, this is very much like the prologue for this saga, and this is going to take a little while, and then it shouldn't be judged on that. These films all I think are judged on their own sort of merit. And I think what's really interesting is that especially this year, we've had 3 very different movies, all with their own kind of, and I've enjoyed them all with their own different flavor, all with their own different genre in many ways. We had a horror movie, we had an out sort of almost a family comedy, like, a dad comedy. We had Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is this epic in many ways about grief and about identity. Really different movies.
Because when you look back at Phase 1, the phase the Phase 1, 2, and 3
Yeah.
are now referred to as like the Infinity Saga. Phase 1 of that only introduces a handful of those Infinity Stones. And then Phase 2 is introducing more of the Infinity Stones. Phase 3 introduces the last few of them. And then that's when we get all of them together. So here, when we kind of look back at Phase 4, you look at the movies like Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and kind of in a way, Shang-Chi, this idea of like laying the groundwork here for very are important items. We think the 10 rings were probably very important. A lot of people are pointing out the similarities between the design of the 10 rings and some stuff from Quantumania in the same way as Miss Marvel's bangle being featured in Quantumania. Though this was very much just laying the groundwork. And I think coming off the back of Endgame, people were like ready for the next big hit. Well, what we actually got was this, and I'm trying to like find the best way to put this without just constantly saying laying the groundwork. But that's what it is. We are finding this is our first step into our next world, and I actually think they've done an incredible job of that. And I think a lot of these movies have been really, really great. I've really enjoyed them. And Black Panther: Wakanda Forever was like a nice little like denouement to that, because it was so completely different from some of the ones that we've had previously.
It's setting out a chessboard, essentially. You're putting your pieces in place and saying, okay, well, we're getting ready, because it's it's a different phase. Not to put too much on that word, but it is a different phase of this universe, because we are getting new characters in Shang-Chi, just new directions in general, things like Eternals as well, with what that did in terms of opening up the kind of characters we have within the MCU, and it is really just sort of saying, okay, that was then. And this is now, and this is where we're going, and these are your characters, these are your pieces in a way, onward kind of thing, and looking ahead to Phase 5, and as we continue, it's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look, the films we've got coming up: Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Marvels, Captain America: New World Order, Thunderbolts, and Blade.
Oh yeah.
That is a heck of a lineup.
It is quite tasty.
Because I love Thunderbolts.
Yes,
I was a Thunderbolts comic reader, so I'm fully on board for that. And they've got a great lineup of rogues to go into the Thunderbolts as well. And this is going to be the new Captain America, the new phase of Cap, and I think that's going to be a very, very fascinating thing to look into.
There's a lot of unknowns in a way that's very exciting. I think that's the thing. I think when you've had the connection with these movies that we've had for the longest time, over the past sort of 10 years, even longer, you've got this. I just caught myself. It's nearly 15. It's 15 years since the Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
Next year is 15 years. That's a long time, and we're so almost an entire culture has sprung up out of that. When we're talking about Comic Cons and people going in cosplay and things like that, this has really become part of cinema language. And it's almost like they have to start all over again, because a lot of these actors aren't really present anymore. The characters look different. In some ways, the characters are different people entirely, like Captain America. That is unknown, which is very exciting.
I think it's easy to forget that Captain America and Iron Man in particular, Thor was another one, were not popular characters.
The whole thing was a B team.
The whole thing was like they didn't have the X-Men, didn't have Spider-Man, they didn't have, to a degree, the Incredible Hulk. They sort of did, but it was... Incredible Hulk had the pedigree because he had the TV series and this and the other. But like Iron Man, who was their flagship character, in Cap, they were out to the mainstream unknowns.
I had no clue.
But they have now become household names because they've done such a good job. And I think that people will look back at Phase 4 and see that same level with people like Shang-Chi, maybe with the Eternals, certainly with Doctor Strange. I think they've done a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, I think they've really nailed it.
This week's big releases are The Menu, Confess, Fletch, and Armageddon Time. The Menu was the one that jumped out to you before we sat down to talk.
I like food, Luke. I'll tell you the truth. So food-based movies, anything with a chef is and they usually fall into two territories. It's sort of like it's either a comedy or a horror, and this one it sits in sort of, it straddles both. It was the secret showing at the festival this year. I didn't get to go, but my friend was there, and
London Film Festival.
The London Film Festival,
to be clear.
For all of the people who were lucky enough to be in the room, the reports coming out of it were that it was very well received, and it's Ray Fiennes.
Could you say that the feedback to it was tasty?
You could say that if you wanted
I mean, I don't want to say that this is my job, but
You're a television professional. There was a screening of it that I couldn't make, unfortunately. But again, the reports coming out of it were very exciting. And at the end of it, they left and they were all ready to sort of go for some food because you watch a movie with a lot of food. And specifically, they wanted a burger. And as they left, they were being handed burgers.
no.
Except they were like, these burgers are cold. This is going to be weird and unpleasant. Bit into it. It's only a donut that looked like a burger.
Well, now.
I know.
The movie that really jumped out to me was Confess Fletch.
Yeah, tell me about this.
So the reason why this jumped out to me is because I saw Confess Fletch and I was like, a bit like the Chevy Chase movies that they did sort of in the 80s and 90s, like Fletch. Oh, okay. Oh my, it's a Fletch movie.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was just like they just used that word.
Yeah.
But no, this is another Fletch movie.
For the uninitiated and the incredibly young and youthful and beautiful of the world.
They're comedy detective movies.
Right, okay.
And Chevy Chase was the original Fletch, and they did Fletch, and I think Fletch Lives, I think was the second one they did. And then there were going to be loads of reboots that they were going to do of Fletch, and it's just been this sort of like ongoing production development hell. Let's try and get another Fletch movie made. And lo and behold, we've got one here.
John
And
Hamm.
it's John Hamm.
John Hamm.
And you look at that poster for it, and it's done in that sort of like stylized 50s movie poster type thing. And that really, really jumped to me.
Based purely on the things that you're saying and having looked at that poster, it feels like it's in the same vein in a way as like the Naked Gun, like Leslie Nielsen movies. Is that
sort of actually more like a Knives Out, see how they run type thing?
See, I love those.
Yeah. So I think you might actually have a good time with this. This will actually be like a mystery that will be sort of solved along the way.
Sold.
Also out this week is Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is still in IMAX, 4DX, ScreenX, and Super Screen, as well as regular old 2D.
The Banshees of Inisherin and Lyle Lyle Crocodile.
What is your pick of the week?
I am going to go with The Menu. I think, Black Panther was my pick last week. I probably will be seeing it again at the weekend, to be completely honest with you. But I'm very excited by The Menu. I think it's one that when I first saw the posters in Leicester Square, I was like, okay.
I am going to pick Black Panther because I wasn't here last week, so I couldn't pick it.
Yeah.
So I am going to be going with Wakanda Forever because I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But my other pick is Fletch.
And I am sold on that. It's probably going to be a 3-movie week for me.
Also on the big screen on Wednesday the 23rd is Tim Minchin back, and Matthew Bourne's Nutcracker will be on November 20th.
And on sale now, you can get your tickets for Matilda the Musical and Strange World.
And we recently brought some families into our wonderful Cineworld screen to show them the trailer for Strange World. And here's what happened.
Oh, a Disney movie.
It's bombing a good...
Our entire world is in grave danger. I want you to come with me on an expedition.
It's a big dog. That's a massive dog.
This is the big fur ball.
That dog is so cute.
Very hairy, no?
Uh-oh. They're all covered in glue. Oh, I love that bike.
What sound is that?
Climbing it.
Oh my god. It's alive.
And it's got like an eye in the middle.
It's alive. It's going on.
How does it walk?
Ooh, it's a slap.
That's going to be Grandpa, the son, and then that's his son, so his grandson.
Oh dear, did you see that? It was an octopus on fire.
I know.
Grilled octopus.
Probably going home.
Oh.
That wasn't good.
Like, take me, I want to eat you.
Strange
Whoa.
World.
Oh, this sounds fun. Can't wait to see this.
That looks action-packed. And I like action.
That's great.
With the Cineworld family ticket, adults pay kids' prices. Embrace your childish side at Cineworld.
And if you're watching this, you might be like the families we just saw then. There's 2 of you, there's 2 of them. Why not buy yourself a family ticket where you, the adults, only have to pay kid prices?
Always want to be a kid again.
Oh, it's great to be more childish.
Yeah.
And we also have some unlimited screenings coming up on November 22nd, Summering, and on the 29th, A Love Song. But that's all we've got time for on this edition of What's On at Cineworld Cinemas. You can check out any of the movies we've discussed today using the links in the video description down below. And if you enjoyed these two idiots waffling back and forth, you can find more of that on the podcast version of the show, available on all good, bad, and mediocre podcast platforms. Till then, I have been Luke Owen.
And I've been Dan Layton.
And that's What's On.